Who are the Lions going to face Sunday when they take on the New York Jets? Nobody knows who the quarterback's going to be just as of yet for the Jets, Jets. But it does look like there's a strong possibility Zach Wilson could be the starting quarterback. We won't probably know until much later in the week. But Mike the Hitman White is definitely looking like he's going to be sitting on the sidelines. Nothing official, but I will say this. If you send a quarterback to the hospital after taking multiple shots to the ribs, there's some serious issues going on there. And thankfully for White, there was nothing broken, nothing of a lacerated kidney that they could tell, anything of a serious nature. But let's talk about all that, some things with Taylor Deckard and other members of the Detroit Lions, and maybe just a little bit more in today's Wednesday version of Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host, once again, Dan Thornton. This is Lions Talk Live, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your days to join us here. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. My goal is hopefully by Sunday to get us to 620 subscribers. If you haven't yet subscribed and you're enjoying the content, maybe even consider leaving a thumbs up and offering some interaction in the comment sections below. But now, let's move on and get into today's topics. It seems like just a couple weeks ago, I was pointing out how well Taylor Deckard has played this season. The longtime Detroit Lions left tackle has been playing, in my opinion, some of his best football of his career in this stretch. And we started off the year very strong. He had a good year last year, but he's taken it to another level in the last 2 months. And who would have known that he's been playing through an appendicitis for the last month? I wasn't aware of that until news broke of it today, and I'll give the guy some credit. It's got to be an incredibly uncomfortable injury for any lineman or any player to have, let alone your starting left tackle. Somebody who hasn't been giving up sacks, hasn't been getting beat, and has been a monster in the run blocking assignments. So kudos and credits need to go out to Taylor Deckard, and maybe that's why they didn't have him run that pass pattern last Sunday, instead went with Sewell. But being as it may, let's talk about how the offensive line play has been impacting our offense overall. Among other players, this group has really helped drive the offense in both pass protection and run blocking. If you go back and watch the last few weeks, it's been hard to find any real moments where somebody's been beaten off the bat and allowed pressure on Goff. Earlier in the year, we did have moments, especially on blitz pickups, where I felt like you could see just a lack of communication and some breakdowns, especially in the middle of the O-line. I thought you could see where the guards, who've been going through some flux with injuries throughout most of the last 2 to 3 months, you could see where some of that was really happening, especially against the Bills. Yes, I get we had 2 offensive guards both out for that game, plus their backups. So in most cases, we're on the 3rd or even 4th string option at both offensive guard positions. But overall, during this winning streak, out of the last 2 months, you can see that the blitz pickups have been much better. The run blocking assignments have been better. When we're getting out and pulling, which we've been doing quite a bit, especially in the last 3 games, you could see where things have really come together with this group. And that's giving Goff all sorts of time in play action and normal drop back situations. It's also opened up a number of holes for the running backs, even though more and more teams seem to be saying, hey, we're going to put 8 up front. If Goff can beat us, we'll have to live with it. And to our credit, Goff has been beating it. We talked about yesterday on Lions Talk Live, if you take out weeks 4 through 7, Goff might be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC. Yes, Goff did have a rough stretch during weeks 4 through 7, but let's also analyze why that may be. A lot of the receivers were either out or gravely injured. Running back situations weren't as stable as they are now. And again, offensive line was going through some flux. So when all of them come together, I think we've got a pretty good offense. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Jets quarterback situation. Mike White has been viewed as kind of the savior of the Jets. One thing I don't really understand with it is why. He does seem to be a little bit more rah-rah. It is clear the coaches and players on the Jets love this guy, where Zach Wilson, had a better record while the starting quarterback, but is not beloved by either coaches or the players on the team. Who's going to start for them? We'll worry about that later in the week when it's probably finalized who is going to be out there. But I will say this, the Lions might be catching the Jets at the right time. And no, this isn't going to be our preview video. That's tomorrow. But I'm just going to make a footnote of it. The Jets quarterback situation is not in great hands at this moment. No matter who's going to be out there, if you believe it's the savior, Mike White, that's going to be somebody with a lot of limited range of motion unless he's going to do some stuff in pregame to really help him out. So if Mike White isn't 100%, and let's be fair, if he does play, I'm guessing he's going to be closer to 80%. To me, that's going to be a telling tale about where the Jets are as a franchise. Probably means they're looking to move on from Zach Wilson after this year. And, we'll not get into that because this isn't about the Jets. This is about the Lions. But how it helps us, if their offense, which has been struggling most of the year, isn't even at its top level, that's really going to aid our defense, which has been coming on as of late. I'm sure you all know, the secondary with Jacobs and Jeff Okudah, Kirby Joseph, Elliott have all been playing much, much better in the last, 2 months. Our defensive line is getting more consistent pressure. They're not consistent by a long, stretch, but they are becoming more consistent in what they do, some of their techniques, a lot of their stunts, which they started the year doing, and then for whatever reasons went away from it during the middle of the year, now seem to be returning. James Houston, the problem, obviously has come on. Aiden Hutchinson has been fairly consistent throughout his rookie campaign. But we're going to have to shut down the Jets' run game and force them into passing situations. And if either of the quarterback options aren't really great, that's probably going to benefit us. Any kind of long-term Lions fan is going to listen to my last statement and say, hey, their quarterbacks aren't great. Their backups are, probably not going to play well against us. Probably has some PTSD because if you've watched the Lions really since about the year 2000, it just seems like there's an act for backup quarterbacks to come in and just shred us and then get huge paydays because of it. Being as that may, I don't believe this is the same Detroit Lions defense and team that you could accumulate and compare towards the teams of the last 22 years. I think we are in a much better place, and Aaron Glenn has really taken a lot of this young talent and molded it into what he wants. A high-pressure, man-to-man team that he can occasionally blitz at. Yes, in the start of the year, he was blitzing heavy. I'm going to guess that AG felt like he had to do that to get pressure, but that's not the case with the emergence of Houston. John Kaminsky getting healthier, Hutchinson, and maybe Romeo Okwara can get out there too and give us some help. So if that's the case, that means our linebackers are going to be able to drop a little bit more. They're not great in coverage, but they have been getting better. And I believe the Lions are going to have a real opportunity to mess up that Jets offense. We'll see what happens, though. As far as injuries for the Lions, there's, really nothing new of note. DeAndre Swift is still nursing that ankle he's been nursing throughout the majority of the season. It didn't really seem to impact him last weekend. But, if he got out of that game without really aggravating it further, he should be okay. Like we already talked about in the video, Taylor Decker with his appendicitis. I mean, man, nothing but props to that guy. He's playing through something that most of us wouldn't, and it doesn't seem to be impacting him in his ability to play. There's really nothing of note other than that. Those two, at least that's been made public to us yet. We'll see what happens later today, and then obviously tomorrow with the official reports starting to come out, getting ready for Friday's final 4 p.m. report. So Lions seem to be in good shapes, good spirits, got everything going for them into perhaps the biggest game of their season. I know I've been saying that for a while, but hey, part of winning means the next game now becomes your biggest game. The Lions can pull off wins here against the Jets and then go down to Carolina and get that win. Let's be honest, both those teams have some aspirations to make the postseasons. They're both going to be playing for their lives. If we can get those 2 wins and now get into the final few games of the season, I think we're setting up real well to make the playoffs. One last question I'm going to throw at you guys before I get out of here because it is kind of a slower day news-wise. Let me know. There's talk, it seems like on every media circuit there is right now about Goff. Is he in the, one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFC? Should he be in the MVP race? I think that's a bit of a stretch, but there's no denying that overall this season, other than weeks 5 through 7, he's played very, very good ball. Perhaps some of the best ball of his career. We can go into why those weeks were down for him, and that's somebody else's topic to debate. But my question for all of you guys is, where do you rank him in the NFC? Is he legitimately one of the top 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in the NFC? Come this offseason, do you want to move on from Goff? If you do, who can we get that would play at a better level than him? And I think that's going to be, the longer Goff goes in the season playing at a high level, it's going to become harder and harder for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell to find somebody who can supersede what he's doing. Let's not forget, this guy's only like 27 or 28 years old. He should be just entering the prime. And with more and more quarterbacks playing till 36, 37, Tom Brady's an outlier, but that means the Lions could potentially get another decade out of this kid. All right, well, that's going to end today's video. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't yet subscribed, you know the drill. It takes about a second and a half. If you are interested in subscribing to Lions Talk Live, pretty please consider leaving a thumbs up and leave some comments in the section below. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow on Lions Talk Live.